Nobody in Obodo village understood why Mama Chika's soup changed people so completely. First, people thought it was ordinary luck. A tired motorcycle rider stopped beside her roadside stand one rainy evening and ordered a bowl of catfish pepper soup. The next day he returned with 3 of his friends. Then traders started visiting after market hours. Then farmers. Then wealthy businessmen from nearby towns. Within a few months, Mama Chika's tiny roadside stand became the busiest place in the entire village. Every evening before sunset, people crowded around her wooden tables holding bowls impatiently while thick spicy smoke floated into the air. The smell alone felt hypnotic. Even travelers passing through the village suddenly stopped their vehicles after catching the scent. Women became angry because their husbands no longer ate food at home. Young boys spent school money buying her soup secretly. Even church elders who normally avoided roadside food visited her stand at night pretending nobody saw them. People began whispering strange rumors across Obodo village. Her soup heals sadness. Once you taste it, you cannot stop craving it. That woman is using something. At first, villagers laughed at those stories. But slowly, even the people laughing became addicted too. Mama Chika smiled politely while serving customers every evening. Outside, she looked calm and successful. But inside her heart, fear lived there every single day. Because hidden beneath her giant black cooking pot was a secret nobody in Obodo village could ever imagine. Every morning before sunrise, Mama Chika locked herself inside the kitchen completely alone. Nobody was allowed near the soup. Not her daughters. Not her younger sister. Not even the woman helping her wash plates. Whenever somebody entered unexpectedly, panic immediately filled her eyes. One afternoon, her youngest daughter Amara quietly walked into the kitchen carrying fresh meat inside a bowl. "Mama, should I help wash this?" Mama Chika turned so quickly that hot soup spilled onto the firewood. "Get out!" Her voice exploded violently inside the smoky kitchen. Amara froze instantly. Mama Chika pointed toward the door with trembling fingers. "Nobody touches this pot except me. Never enter here again." The little girl slowly stepped backward in fear. Her mother had never shouted at her like that before. That night, Amara lay awake on her mat unable to sleep. Rain tapped softly against the zinc roof while her thoughts became heavier. Why was her mother behaving so strangely? Why did she guard that soup pot like someone hiding a dead body? From that day, Amara started watching carefully. And the more she watched, the stranger things became. Mama Chika's business exploded beyond imagination. She moved from her leaking mud house into a beautiful cement building painted cream and gold. She bought expensive lace wrappers, gold jewelry, a freezer, even a small black SUV that shocked the entire village. People could not stop talking. How can ordinary soup bring this kind of money? This is not natural. She must be using juju. Other food sellers became jealous immediately. They copied her ingredients exactly. Extra pepper, fresh fish, special seasoning cubes, more crayfish. Nothing worked. Customers still abandoned everybody else and crowded Mama Chika's stand every evening. But while money entered her life quickly, peace completely disappeared. She barely slept anymore. Every sound frightened her. Every visitor made her nervous. And every single morning before cooking, her hands trembled badly with fear. Because deep down inside, she knew one mistake could destroy everything overnight. Years earlier, Mama Chika had been one of the poorest widows in Obodo village. Her husband died suddenly after a painful illness, leaving her alone with 3 children. Life became unbearable afterward. Rainwater entered through holes in their roof during storms. Her children slept hungry most nights. Sometimes they drank only gari and water before sleeping. Some evenings, her soup remained untouched from morning until night. Villagers mocked her openly. "This soup tastes like dirty water. She does not know how to cook." Children laughed whenever they passed her roadside stand. At night, Mama Chika cried silently beside her sleeping children, while hunger slowly destroyed her hope. One evening after another terrible market day, her close friend Mama Ifioma sat quietly beside her empty stand. "You cannot continue suffering like this," Mama Ifioma whispered softly. Mama Chika stared hopelessly at the empty road ahead. "What else can I do?" she asked weakly. Mama Ifioma looked around carefully before lowering her voice. There is a native doctor deep inside Udo forest. Mama Chica immediately became uncomfortable. I do not want trouble, she said quietly. But poverty is already killing you, Mama Ifioma replied softly. That night Mama Chica could not sleep. She stared at her children's thin bodies while rainwater dripped through the roof beside them. Her youngest son coughed weakly in his sleep while cold wind entered the room through broken walls. Before sunrise, Mama Chica made a dangerous decision. The next morning, she walked alone toward Udo Forest. Cold wind moved through the tall trees while strange birds cried above her head. The deeper she walked, the heavier her fear became. After nearly 2 hours, she finally reached the shrine. Her legs almost failed immediately. Animal skulls hung from wooden sticks surrounding the dark building. Red cloth danced slowly in the wind. The air smelled bitter and strange. Suddenly, a deep voice spoke from inside the darkness. I have been expecting you. Mama Chica froze completely. Then the native doctor slowly stepped forward. His eyes looked frighteningly calm. Fear swallowed her body immediately. Mama Chica dropped to her knees. My children are starving, she whispered painfully. I need help. The old man stared silently at her for several seconds before finally speaking. Everything has a price. Mama Chica nodded desperately. I will do anything. The native doctor disappeared briefly into the shrine before returning with a small black charm, wrapped inside red cloth. Then he spoke slowly. Every morning before cooking, wash your body with water. Mama Chica listened silently. Pour that same water into the soup. Her breathing immediately became shaky. The old man continued speaking calmly. And place this cloth beneath your cooking pot while preparing food. Mama Chica swallowed nervously. And if somebody sees it? The native doctor leaned closer slowly. The spirits protecting your success will leave you forever. Fear entered her chest like cold water. But hunger swallowed her fear even more. The following morning, shaking badly, Mama Chica performed the ritual exactly as instructed. First, nothing happened. Then one customer arrived. Then another. Then 5 more. Before sunset, her entire soup pot became empty for the first time in months. That evening, Mama Chica returned home carrying more money than she had touched in years. The next day, even more customers arrived. Then more. Then crowds. Everything changed completely after that. People traveled from nearby villages just to taste her soup. Drivers parked motorcycles beside her stand every evening. Some customers even fought over the last bowls. Villagers started calling her Mama Blessing. But the more successful she became, the more terrified she grew. Nobody touched the pot. Nobody entered the kitchen. Nobody helped her cook. Every morning before sunrise, she secretly repeated the ritual while praying nobody would ever discover the truth. Months passed. Then years. Mama Chica became one of the richest women in Obodo village. But fear followed her everywhere. Sometimes she woke up sweating at night after dreaming somebody discovered the secret beneath the pot. Other nights she imagined villagers dragging her through the market in shame. Still she continued, because she could no longer imagine returning to poverty. Then came the afternoon that destroyed everything. It was one of the busiest market days Obodo village had seen all year. Customers filled the roadside from morning until evening. Smoke covered the air while people shouted impatiently for food. Mama Chica became exhausted. Sweat covered her face continuously while heat from the firewood burned her skin. Finally, she walked toward the mango tree beside the stand to rest briefly. Amara, she shouted weakly. Help me serve customers for a moment. Amara froze immediately. Her mother never allowed anybody near the pot. But Mama Chica looked too tired to care anymore. Slowly, Amara picked up the large serving spoon. Steam rose heavily from the boiling soup while customers stretched their bowls forward impatiently. Then suddenly, the spoon touched something strange beneath the soup. Something soft. Something hidden. Amara frowned slightly and pulled upward. At first, she could not understand what she was seeing. Then the object slowly emerged from the boiling soup. A woman's underwear. For 1 second, complete silence covered the entire roadside. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then chaos exploded everywhere. Women screamed loudly. Men dropped plates onto the ground. Customers pushed each other while running backward in horror. Amara stood frozen beside the pot, staring at the wet cloth hanging from the spoon with shaking hands. Mama Chica opened her eyes beneath the mango tree and saw everything. The moment Mama Chica saw the cloth hanging above the soup, terror swallowed her completely. Her body froze. The bowl in her hand dropped onto the dusty ground instantly. "No, no, no!" She staggered toward the stand with trembling legs while customers continued screaming around her. "Don't touch it!" she shouted desperately. But it was already too late. Everybody had seen it. The whispers started immediately. "She used juju. That soup was cursed. I told you something was wrong." Amara slowly turned toward her mother, tears filling her eyes. "Mama, what is this?" Mama Chica opened her mouth but no words came out. Her entire body started shaking uncontrollably. Then suddenly she screamed. A loud, terrifying scream that silenced the entire roadside. She grabbed her head violently and collapsed onto the dusty road. People stepped backward in fear. Mama Chica began laughing uncontrollably. Not normal laughter. The kind of laughter that made everybody's skin crawl. She rolled across the ground while pulling at her wrapper with dirty, trembling hands. "Don't let them take it!" she shouted at invisible people. "They promised me." Villagers watched in complete horror. Children started crying. Women covered their mouths in shock. Mama Chica has gone mad. Amara rushed toward her mother crying helplessly. "Mama! Mama, please stop!" But Mama Chica no longer recognized anybody. Her eyes looked completely empty. She pointed suddenly toward the soup pot and screamed again. "The spirits are angry." Then she burst into another fit of terrifying laughter. Some villagers immediately ran away from the stand. Others stood frozen, unable to believe what they were seeing. Within minutes, the entire market heard the news. People gathered around the roadside whispering fearfully. So this was her secret. That woman used dark powers for money. Nothing built on evil ever lasts. Meanwhile, Mama Chica continued rolling across the dusty road like someone completely possessed. Her children cried helplessly beside her while villagers stared with fear and disgust. The same people who once praised her now looked at her like a dangerous animal. One elderly man slowly shook his head. Quick success always hides a terrible price. As evening approached, the crowd slowly disappeared. Nobody touched the soup again. Nobody even went near the stand. The once famous roadside shop suddenly felt cursed. Cold silence replaced the usual noise of customers fighting for bowls. That night, heavy rain fell across Obodo village. Mama Chica sat outside her beautiful house laughing and crying alone beneath the storm while her children watched helplessly from the doorway. The expensive house no longer mattered. The jewelry no longer mattered. The money no longer mattered. Everything she suffered to build had collapsed in a single moment. And worst of all, the entire village now knew her secret. Days passed, then weeks. Mama Chica never recovered completely. Sometimes villagers saw her wandering near the roadside barefoot, talking to herself quietly. Other times she stood beside the abandoned soup stand staring at the cold fireplace for hours without moving. Children became afraid whenever they saw her. Parents warned them constantly. Never follow shortcuts to success. Anything built on darkness will destroy its owner. Meanwhile, her once crowded roadside stand slowly rotted beside the dusty road. The wooden benches broke apart under rainstorms. Dry leaves gathered around the cold cooking place. Nobody ever bought food there again. Even travelers avoided stopping near the area after sunset. The story spread beyond Obodo village into nearby towns. People discussed Mama Chica's downfall everywhere. Some blamed greed. Others blamed desperation. But everybody agreed on one thing. The moment success is built on fear and darkness, peace disappears forever. One evening, many months later, Amara quietly visited the abandoned stand alone. The sun was setting slowly behind the trees while cold wind moved dust across the empty road. She stared silently at the giant black pot still sitting there untouched. For a moment, memories flooded her mind. The laughter, the crowds, the money, the lies. Then her eyes slowly filled with tears. Because deep down, she finally understood something painful. Her mother was not born evil. She was simply a desperate woman destroyed by poverty and fear. A woman who wanted to save her children, but ended up losing herself completely. Amara wiped her tears quietly before turning away from the abandoned stand forever. Behind her, the evening wind pushed smoke-colored dust across the empty roadside while darkness slowly covered Obodo village once again.